December 14th, only on pay-per-view. I'm detaching this little clown from my coattails.
You know, all I'm waiting for is December 14th, that you guys finally get the fight you all wanted for so long.
Nothing but respect. You know, he's a big boy. I think the best era ends, and you know what I mean, it's my time.
He's #1 contender. He's the next cupcake on the list, and I can't wait to taste the flavor.
I want the 135 belt. It's the most active weight division. I will bring it to her.
Now I'm a double champion, and there's a lot of experience involved in that, and I will bring this belt home with me. I'm not down in my mind.
You will see December 14th who the face of the UFC is.
For mixed martial arts fans, the wait is almost over. UFC 245, December 14th, this Saturday from T-Mobile Arena, and there are not one, not two, but 3 title fights in Sin City, and also on the main card, a couple of bantamweight fights that is sure to be exciting, worth every penny, we think, here this weekend. CBS Sports HQ getting you ready for UFC 245. And with that, let's say what's good, streaming people. With me, the one, the only, Rashad Evans, the Hall of Famer, here to break it down. Again, we are going to talk about every single fight here, 5 that we just talked about, including the 3 title fights. And before we sort of get to the breakdown, Sugar, I want to do it because I'm more of a journalist and reporter. I kind of like the storyline. So let's start with the 2 non-title fights in the bantamweight, right? You got Petr Yan, the Russian up-and-coming, against the 40-year-old, the California kid in Urijah Faber. And I want to talk about Urijah Faber first because he's coming off the contract that he wanted. Now, whether he fulfills that entire contract, maybe not, but what kind of peace of mind do you think this gives the California kid coming into this fight?
Well, I mean, he's riding high. You know, he had a big stoppage over Ricky Simone in his return back from his retirement, and that kind of like let him know that he can do it again. So I think he's still riding high off that wave, and he's been still competing and training with the guys at Alpha Male because he's their leader at Alpha Male. So he's still in there training with those young guys who's still out there competing. So he still feels like he has it, and stepping in against Petr Yan is going to be, you know, a step up in competition, but it's something that I feel that, you know, Urijah is excited for, because when you're the guy and you've been the guy for so long, you want to set your sights on knocking somebody else off who's at the top.
He's jumped around different organizations, but he loves the UFC. And part, I'm sure, Rashad, is that he wants to take this fight, if he has a chance here, an upside that if he wins, possibly a chance all the way that catapults him to the top with Henry Cejudo.
Yeah, I mean, Yan is at the top, you know, and Yan is one of those guys who's, you know, extremely well. You know, he has great combination striking inside, and there's not much that this guy can't do. You know, he's very creative inside the octagon, but he's one of those new age fighters that just does every single thing well, and they don't have any tells of what they're going to do. That's what Urijah is going to be up against. So Urijah is going to have to make this fight an ugly fight. He's going to have to make this fight something that Petr Yan hasn't been in, which is the dog fight.
What, since you mentioned it, sort of what Urijah needs to do, and the emergence of a Petr Yan, a boxing striker guy. He's added Muay Thai to his repertoire. What stands out to you about the growth of his game and how he's evolved in such a short amount of time here?
Well, I think, you know, with Petr Yan, it's just, you know, his mindset when it comes to, you know, stepping in for these big fights, because it's one thing to be that guy, but it's another thing when you're stepping up against big competition. And now he's going to step up against big competition with Urijah Faber. And in order to, you know, get the title shot, to get the nod, he has to, you know, have an impressive win, a knockout over a guy like Urijah Faber to prove that he's in the conversation.
All right, Petr Yan's coming in as a 5-1 favorite. Who do you like in this one and why?
I like Petr Yan. I mean, you know, the favorites don't lie. I think that, you know, his activity inside the octagon, you know, his youth, his combination, his total game when it comes down, I think is just, you know, it's on another level. And I think that in order for Urijah to be able to match that, he's going to really have to catch him and cause, you know, Petr Yan to shell up and make a mistake. But for the most part, I just can't see Petr Yan making a mistake.
All right, Yan will look to get the victory, again, try to catapult himself in contention for a title fight. Ahead of him is Marlon Moraes, and you got Jose Aldo, so 1 versus 3, an all-Brazilian matchup. Give me the keys to this one for you.
Yeah, I think the big key is here, you know, for Marlon is just to go out there and to, you know, use his game. You know, Marlon has a really good good striking game as well as a good transitional wrestling game. You know, he has Mark Henry in his corner, and Mark Henry is a maestro when it comes to calling plays, you know, because he has a code and he calls codes, and you just do whatever code that he calls. So, you know, you have another man in there with Mark Henry when it comes to that. So I really like that. And with Aldo, he's cutting weight, and when you're that old and you're cutting weight and you've been battle tested like that, that may necessarily not be the best thing for you, especially if you cut too much weight.
Look at that. He's looking slim there.
I mean, and that's the thing. Like, when you see a guy cutting that much weight, you got to think, okay, he's got his weight down, but is he going to be able to get the water weight back on in time so he can take big blows in there? And that's the problem sometimes. You take big shots in there and you cut so much weight and your brain can't absorb the shock and you get knocked out.
All right, we're seeing Jose going down again from 145 to 135. It sounds like you like Moraes here. What do you anticipate Saturday night?
I think Moraes is just going to be too fast, and he's going to be frustrating for Jose. You know, Jose doesn't kick as much as he used to, and I think that's going to hurt him going against a guy like Marlon Moraes, who moves around a lot on the outside and stabs in with his punches. So I just think that Moraes is going to have too much tools for him and just, you know, be too fresh for him.
All right, those are two bantamweight fights on the main card, but they're not title fights. We do have one bantamweight fight that is for the title. It's in the women's side. Amanda Nunes and Germaine Randamie. It is a rematch, although it's about 6 years apart. First off, I want to ask you, because I went back and looked at the video of the first fight in 2013 out at the military base in Kentucky. And, you know, they're both relatively unknowns, and we obviously know now what Amanda has been able to do. But when you've gone that far from fighting someone from Amanda's side, she's taken Shevchenko on before, but this will be another time with a big gap in between. What do you think that is like as a fighter?
You know, for Amanda, she's just cruising, you know, and her resume as of late, you know, beating Cyborg and then beating Holly Holm and just, you know, having that confidence. There's nothing that she feels like she can't do, and there's nothing that she hasn't been able to do. So, you know, she knows that she's already got that win under her belt, and she knows when it comes down to striking, she has a good base and a good leg to stand on when it comes to actually standing there going toe-to-toe with world-renowned striking expert like Germaine Randamie. But the thing is, for her, she knows that she has that takedown and she has that ground. And that top game that she had that put Germaine off the first fight, that's a hard gap to close in just a 6-year span of time.
It was a little interesting because Nunes got on top of Randamie, and then Herb Dean came in and stopped. A little bit controversial in that first round. So on the other side for Randamie, we know, obviously you mentioned the striking ability, the Muay Thai coming from the Netherlands, and having her background. Has she evolved enough? Because we know, again, Amanda has evolved in her game. Has she evolved enough to maybe counter what we saw in that first fight?
I would say yes, but it still remains to be seen because she still hasn't been tested in a grappling area, which she's going to be tested with Amanda Nunes. She hasn't been in those tough positions where she's had somebody on top and she had to answer those questions. You know, how is she going to get up and how is she going to be once she get back up to her feet after that grappling exchange? Because it's one thing to get taken down, but it's another thing to get back up to your feet and then still strike with proficiency as you did before you got taken down once the lactic acid starts building up in your muscles. And that's what Germaine Randamie is going to be up against.
One more thing on Randamie, which is going to be the Iron Lady against the Lioness, and it is that she's had some periods of gaps in her resume right now. And I know she's a police officer. She's got other things that she's doing back in the fight game, but we're looking. There's a big gap here in 15 and 19.
Yeah, and those gaps can definitely hurt. And I think that, you know, the gap that she had when she took the time off with the Holly fight, it was just kind of figuring out, her feelings were kind of hurt and some things she was working out in her personal life. And, I think those gaps can be hurtful, but at the same time, it can help as well when you have somebody like Germaine Randamie who doesn't have that well-rounded skill, taking some time off to work on those skills like groundwork and the transition when someone's taking a shot on you, that can help her out. But I guess it's all depending on what you do with that time off.
All right, Amanda's coming in as a big favorite, more than 3-1. She's going to come into the fight a belt holder of 2 different weight divisions. What are the chances she stays that way after done?
I think she stays that way. I think that, the ground and being able to stop the takedowns and being able to stop, Amanda passing the guard and getting that dominant ground position, I don't think that Germaine Randamie can do that. All
right, it'll be interesting to see. Again, you got the Lioness and the Iron Lady in Sin City on Saturday. Moving on, Max Holloway and Alexander Volkanovski. This is a featherweight type battle. What are you anticipating? Break down the keys in your eyes.
This is the closest fight to me on the card, just because of the fact that you have 2 pressure fighters, and you have both guys that have power in their shots. You know, I think Volkanovski has a little bit more power in his shots, but you know, Volkanovski is one that can bring the pressure and bring the pace, and that's something that Max has been able to do so very well. He brings a pace that a lot of people can't stand up to, and he ends up having everyone fades out as the fight goes on. But with a fighter like Volkanovski, he's a fighter cut from the same cloth as Max Holloway, so he's going to be able to go in those dark corners with him and push the pace like Max Holloway. Now, the key here is if Max Holloway has cut too much weight, then that's going to cut in his ability to go and push the pace and match a Volkanovski. And that's where the can Max lose his fight? Yeah, that's where the Max can lose his fight, because if Volkanovski can bring the pressure and bring Max into that place where a lot of fighters can't bring him because they don't have the stamina that Volkanovski does, then we're going to see if all the hard weight cutting through all the years has affected Max.
Volkanovski, you mentioned the stamina. Former rugby player, was like north of 200 pounds, and now he's cut it back, but maybe still keeping all the power that he has in there. So who do you like in this one?
Man, this one's a tough one to call, but you know, I gotta go with champ. Yeah, I gotta go with champ Max. You know, 14 wins in this weight class. You know, that's a really hard number to beat, and that means that he knows the rhythm. He knows how to get it done. I gotta go with Max on this one.
All right, Holloway right around more than $1.50 favorite against Volkanov. That one for the featherweight title bout. Expect a lot of throwing punches and strikes there. Lots of pace with these two guys. And we've got to end here with, it's funny because I dubbed this sort of the Boca Raton Bowl because both guys are South Florida guys, but it has the implications of like the Sugar Bowl or the national title because it's Kamaru Usman and Colby Covington, the Nigerian Nightmare and Chaos. This is one that is really exciting to me. Just from a fan's perspective here, put just from your fan head, how excited are you for this fight?
I'm excited, and I'm super excited just because, you know, both of these guys, they're cut from the same cloth. You know, you look at their statistics and you really can't tell them apart, and they fight so much alike, and the hate between them is so real that you know that something explosive is going to happen inside that octagon.
From Colby's perspective, again, he's been wanting to fight for the strap, right? And you know very well how tough it is to maneuver a fight that you want while winning, which he has. He had to really get the Lawler fight under his belt, which he did. How do you think he and his camp have navigated up to this point to get this fight?
I think it's been perfect. You know, Colby takes a lot of criticism for the way that he is, but for the most part, when it comes to fighting and when it comes to getting the fights that he wants, he does great business. And, you know, this guy right here, Colby, is somebody that you love to hate, but at the end of the day, you cannot deny what he brings to the table. This guy is a pressure fighter who comes forward, and he has skills. You know, he's very athletic too, sneakily athletic. You know, there's a couple kicks that he thrown in his fight with Robbie Lawler that I didn't think that he could do on an athletic level, but he just did it for fun, and it shows that he has another level that he can hit if he wanted to. So that's the scary part about a guy like Colby Covington, is that he's a trash talker, brings a lot of pressure, and you haven't even seen the best of him yet.
All right, so we had Colby Covington against Lawler in August, then Kamaru Usman, of course, with Tyron Woodley earlier in the year in March. Before I get your pick, give me a path to victory for each fighter. So let's start with the challenger in Colby Covington. He wins if he does what?
If Colby Covington wins this fight, he's going to be the one who's going to be the hammer and not the nail. He's going to have to put the pressure forward, but more importantly, he's going to have to put Kamaru on his back and make Kamaru work from his back. Even if he doesn't hold Kamaru down, the more he gets Kamaru to work off his back, the more he can cut into Kamaru's gas tank, and that's what it's going to be about. Who's going to be able to handle the energy more proficiently in this fight? And the winner of that, I believe, is going to be the one who controls the wrestling pace.
So on the other side, Kamaru, what in addition to what you talked about, will he have to try to exploit there with Colby?
I think for Kamaru, he's going to have to use his power. He's a bigger, stronger fighter, so I think the power for him is going to be the X factor. Can he hit those powerful shots? Can he hit those, you know, big, powerful punches that's going to bring pause to Colby? And that's what I think. If he brings enough power with his punches and with his takedowns, then it's going to kind of slow Colby down, because no one wants to walk into a punch or heavy anything. You know, you're gonna I guess hold back on your own when you feel that kind of power on you.
All right, so the odds for Usman, much like they are for Holloway and Volkanovski. Kamaru is the favorite. You've gone with the favorite each time. You doing it the same here at the end?
I got to go with the favorite on 2 levels. One, because I really believe that Kamaru is the favorite, and I really believe that he does have what it takes, and it's just because of the fact that he's powerful. They have identical games, but I think that when it comes to endurance and when it comes to power, I think Kamaru has that. But another reason why I just feel as, he's my brother. We trained together for the longest time, and I honestly believe, his maturation in this division has been something that is very impressive, and I think it's something that's going to keep going forward. He's really, took to being champion on another level. I've never seen a more focused Kamaru working through injuries, and there's nothing that I can see that Colby can do that's going to really hurt him.
I'm excited, man. Ever since you went out to Vegas over the summer for International Fight Week, you had your speech, shaking the ground. We had some earthquake stuff too. We've had really good cards ever since then. UFC 242, 3 on and on the fight nights, and now getting ready for 245. Hall of Famer, certainly appreciate it. Thanks for the time as always. And catch Rashad Evans and our guy Brian Campbell, the State of Combat, the host. They are great boxing, wrestling, and MMA. Download, subscribe, and make sure you rate today. Again, Rashad going with all the favorites here in terms of the 5 we talked about today.